So there you can see the three main attractions that bring a lot of people to Pinery Provincial Park. So we go there quite often, usually once a year. I'm going to go over some of the features of the park and some tips. There you can see it's located at the south end of Lake Huron, just south of the town of Grand Bend, Ontario. The park itself is about 25 square kilometers with about 10 kilometers of beach, so no shortage of beach. There you can see the address for your devices to help you find it. It is one of the more established parks. It opened in 1957 and went through some transformations, but lots of campsites, quite a few electrical. And electrical are usually hard to come by. They do go pretty quick, so you're lucky if you can get a reservation for those. But you can see the beach itself is about 10 kilometers. There's lots of real estate in terms of where you want to go on the beach. They have a dog beach as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, that's the general layout of the park itself. And you can see the river, or the Old Au Sable Channel, which is spring-fed, running through the main part of the park. There you can see some quick facts. They do have free Wi-Fi at the visitor center. It's pretty reliable. If you need to send off some pictures or do some email or something, you can sit in an area by the visitor center and get that done. So there you see the main entrance of the Pinery. Now from the sign of the road, Lakeshore Road, to the gatehouse is pretty short. Sometimes there's a lineup, especially at the high times of the day for check-in, which is around 2 o'clock. So give or take a couple hours of that time, expect it to be busy. And once you're in the park and you've gone past the roundabout, you'll come upon the park store and recreation kind of center where you can rent all kinds of things, which I'll talk about in a minute. They also do have washrooms there, so if you need to take a quick break before going to the campgrounds. And directly across from the park store is a building to rent bikes, canoes, all kinds of watercraft, so paddle boards, paddle boats, 1- and 2-man canoes and kayaks. And you can also get some ice cream at the same building. So you get pretty busy. Here is a view of the restaurant. So mostly fast food, but if you want to have a night where you don't want to make a meal at your campsite, you can always just relax and enjoy a meal at the restaurant. And there you can see on the map the park store at the top of the screen. If you turn left at the intersection, you'll see there's a firewood lot and dump and fill station. So there's 2 dump fill stations, one just inside the entrance of the park. If that one's busy, you can always try that one there. Here's the wood lot, firewood lot, and you get ice there as well. They have bundles of hardwood and kindling. Sometimes we find that the firewood, as in other provincial parks, is not as dry as we like it to be. I do want to mention the important thing here is a speed limit of 20 kilometers per hour, not miles per hour. They do enforce it. Every time we're there, we see the park police pulling people over, the park ranger. So remember, you're on vacation, take your time. Here you can see the day use area and the Old Au Sable Channel. Remember, there's a one-way road that goes along here, and if you're turned onto it, you can't turn around. So it's also part of a trail. So keep in mind there's quite a few one-way roads in the park, especially within the campgrounds. They generally want you to go one way. Here's an example of a campsite. This is in Burley. A lot of times we end up with Burley because we have a hard time getting into dunes, but no electricity, so we have 3 panels, solar panels that charge our battery, and it tends to work well. So we don't rely on electricity and we don't expect to get it. There you can see a couple of inflatables that we just strapped to the top of the truck for the river. Always a fun time at the river. And here we're drying out some of the camp firewood. And our dog Nellie enjoying the time with us. This was her first trip last year. We went a few times last year at different parks. She did very well. There you can see what the signpost for the campground numbers look like. So you'll see a lower range and upper range of what's in that certain loop. There you can see a comfort station. And the comfort stations are all accessible. They have showers and a laundry facility as well. So there you can see an example of one in Burley. And another example of a campsite in Burley. This one's a little more open. So away from the beach, you'll find the kind of more open forest. And so here's an example of some of the critters you'll come across. This was very interesting a couple of years ago. We saw something pretty rare. So this is Ontario's only lizard, and they're only in a few areas of Ontario. pretty much southern Ontario, but this is one of the endangered species of Ontario that they're keeping an eye on. But we happen to see one inside of our firewood bag, and there it is, scurrying away. So it's a common 5-line skink, and the adolescent males have this one was a female, but the adolescent males have a bright blue, kind of metallic looking tail that can actually, if the predator grabs it, can break off, and they can regrow it. So it was very interesting to see. So we were happy to come across that and set it free. And anytime you spot any kind of what you think is unusual wildlife, you want to report it to the visitor center front desk. They do track where these are spotted in the park, and there is quite a bit of wildlife, so I encourage you to do that. So here's another great feature of the park is the dunes. So we're talking millions of years of sand being drawn down to the bottom of Lake Huron and being placed in along here. All the way to Lakeshore Road is pretty much all sand dunes. It's just, you'll see the evolution of the dunes from Lakeshore Road right to the beach. All the campsites are on old dunes as well, so very interesting. Lots of old cedar trees. So quite a lot to see, but as always with any park, be respectful of the vegetation that's growing, especially the dune grass. They want to make sure that has healthy growth. So sometimes you'll see little fenced off areas, restricted areas, things like that. So also keep in mind later in the day, when the sun's been beaten down on that sand, it can get very hot. So make sure you have proper footwear. But yeah, lots to see in terms of flowers, different times of year. There's quite a variety of things to see. Juniper berries. Some of the winding trails are fun to walk up and down. And some really beautiful sunsets. Lake Huron, this area is known for the sunsets, so pretty much every night I encourage you to have a walk down towards the beach and just take in the beautiful views. Some areas they have installed plank pathways, so wooden planks that are joined together. Makes it a lot easier to walk on the sand. And of course there's boardwalks here and there. Both Burley and Dunes have large parking lots and boardwalks. So here you can see the kind of the border between Dunes and Burley. There is a boardwalk down to the beach, which is popular. If you go the other way, it includes connection to a trail to the visitor center and to some other trails. So if you look at the park map, you can see how everything is joined together. So the next thing we'll talk about is the river, or the Old Au Sable Channel. It is spring fed and it's cut off from the existing river, so it's kind of isolated. So we've always really enjoyed either renting a canoe or using our own inflatables, but on the kind of park store side of the bridge is the area where you can rent. And there's also, pre-pandemic, they used to have, the park naturalist would do kind of a floating tour, so you'd kind of float with them down the river and just paddle with them, and they'd explain all kinds of natural features of the park and of the Au Sable Channel. So hopefully they'll bring that back, and you can rent a canoe for 2 hours for the price of 1 hour and be part of that kind of floating tour with the park naturalist. So along the river there's areas that are a little bit kind of sandy that you can hang out and look for mussels or just watch the fish underwater. So bring a snorkel and mask if you can. Water's very clear. Again, it's spring fed. The water's nice and warm in the river as well. So yeah, if you you can only have so many beach days, but have a couple of river days. It's there's a lot to see. Just watching the fish with the snorkel or underwater camera is really interesting. They also have areas where you can pull over off the road from the park store to the roundabout. So you can have a picnic lunch. You can even have a little barbecue. They do have some grills set up as well. So painted turtles, mussels, water snakes once in a while, herons, quite a variety of painted turtles. So you can see quite a bit if you just kind of slow yourself down and take in the views. Okay, so yeah, you can rent a canoe or all kinds of different watercraft. There's some fishing opportunities along the river. Great area to spot some wildlife as well, and lots of trails around that end. And of course our dog loved to go in and cool down. Watching her brother and sister in the canoes. This is down towards the North Bridge, so this is where we spotted a snapping turtle, and there's also some good fishing down there, and just a couple of trails, and you can just walk out on little piers. But again, yeah, this is kind of the north side of the park. Again, that one-way road kind of goes over a bridge at the north end of the park and goes through a forest, and it ends up at the day use area. So this is a tree that's been there for years that people have tied ropes to, so you can, if you're adventurous, you can climb up and grab onto the rope and swing out. So it's one of our favorite activities. Again, the water's so warm and clear, it's really fun just to hang out for a few hours. Here's the boat launch, so kind of not directly across from the rental area, just down a bit. But yeah, if you have your own watercraft, you can, it has to be non-motorized. This is where you can launch from. So there's certain times of the day where it's going to be pretty busy, but once you're out on the channel, there's lots of room. It doesn't get very crowded, only in that kind of one area. There you can see a sign about zebra mussels and making sure that if you do bring a watercraft into the park, that's clean. And this is down at the Burley Bridge, so kind of leading towards the campground office for Burley. You can have some, if you want to take in a few hours of fishing or just hanging out by the bridge and exploring. Lots to do on the river. There you can see quite a bit of fish. So some of these images are from years past, but a little bit more freedom pre-pandemic, but hopefully very soon things will open up again and there'll be lots more activities. This park really does have a good program for kids. So this is the Riverside Trail, one of our favorite trails. It's only about a half an hour. It's a very easy trail, but it goes along the river. So you want to take that one-way road down past the roundabout and pull over it to where you see the trailhead. But it has a nice boardwalk. You can see people, you know, in their kayaks or canoes down at this end of the channel. Lots of turtles to see. And along the channel, if you see kind of a minty green open area, that's one of the natural springs coming up. The water is coming up from the sandy bottom, so that's what that is. They do have great kids programs. So this was pre-pandemic. They would have all the kids come together at the Bridge by the Park store on the Riverside side. So the park naturalists would have them go in and explore and scoop up some of the little creatures, and a great learning opportunity and really fun. So here you can see the beach. So Pinery is because it's on Lake Huron, the weather can change pretty quickly. Sometimes it'll be nice and calm, other times really wavy. So don't always think you're going to have a beach day. There's going to be times where it's almost unsafe, and the undertow can be quite strong too. So, but great place to explore. Even if it's not a beach day, there's so many colors of rocks and stones. And as long as you're smart about it and safe, just be aware that it can get pretty rough. Okay, here's another, this was a nice beach day. It was pretty calm. And Nellie was checking things out. This was her kind of first time at a beach. This was at the dog beach, which is kind of at the north end of the park. So lots of people with dogs. I did do a short review on this beach shelter tent that we bought. It was great for her to kind of cool down when it was getting a little bit too hot. So look for that link in the description or up above. But yeah, great place to walk. Sometimes along the edges you'll see these little holes in the side of the sand where the the birds will nest. So the bank swallows, those birds that kind of swoop down and get all the bugs along the beach and along the dunes, they do have little nests along. So if you see little holes in the side of the sand dunes by the very edge of the water, that's what those are. Great places for collecting driftwood and stones and rocks, or just taking it all in. It's really nice to hang out at the beach. Occasionally you'll have some biting sandflies, so some days are better than others, but there you can see some of the little nesting areas for the bank swallow birds. But you never know with the weather. We've been caught in pretty much hurricane style weather coming off of Lake Huron, where trees are falling. So you never know what you're going to get. So here is down at the North Bridge, we did spot a snapping turtle. So it's kind of hard to see with the reflection of the water, but fascinating to see. It actually came up to see us, and there you can see its head.
You can't jump that high.
A lot of times on the back of their shell they have lots of mossy growth, so they camouflage pretty well. So we were kind of lucky to see that. So here's a list of the trails in the park. So the one I've underlined is the Savannah Trail. That's the longest trail that goes along the Au Sable Channel. Basically goes all the way down to the north end and comes back through a forest along the day use area. And it's along that one-way road as well. So if you're into a nice long bike ride, I would definitely ask that you look into the Savannah Trail. It's 14 kilometers. It's going to take you a few hours to do, but just take your time. The rest are all walking trails in various lengths. Some only take 20 minutes, others take a few hours. The things you need to look out for are black-legged ticks, poison ivy, and mosquitoes. So pretty much the same as most parks that you visit. Just be prepared to wear long pants because the tick problem in the last few years at this particular park has been pretty bad. We haven't found any on ours or our dogs, so but it has been reported that it's well known for ticks in that area. And poison ivy. Just be aware of what it looks like. Don't go into the forest and with sandals and shorts on, and if you don't know what it looks like, you need to educate yourself. But yeah, some beautiful sunsets. This is a snake has shed its skin. It was on the side of the road that we saw. Now the visitor center is definitely something you want to see. It has a little gift shop, but a really good interpretive displays. It has a theater, so sometimes films are running. And one thing we did one year was rent a bat detector. It's actually free. You just put down a deposit, but you can record bat sounds in the dunes at night. It's really fun to do, so go to the front desk for that one. And here's an example of some crazy weather that comes off of Lake Huron. This is in Riverside Campground, so a lot of our stuff was kind of floating away. We kind of took refuge in the truck because the winds had picked up and our canopy had kind of collapsed, so really high winds. So just be prepared. You could run into some severe weather. Just watch the forecast. And just before I wrap up and show you a few scenes from Grand Bend, the beach there is a rum and spirits show that they used to show at the amphitheater every Wednesday pre-pandemic. Hopefully that comes back, but if they do run it again, all the park staff get involved in telling kind of a historic tale of the history of the area, and it's pretty funny. There's some really good characters. So if that comes back, I encourage you to watch that at the amphitheater. Okay, so hopefully you found this helpful. It's a beautiful park to visit. I encourage you to check it out. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Bye for now.